Well, a bill called the Fair Access to Bathrooms Bill has been introduced to Parliament as a private member's bill by New Zealand First. Fair access to bathrooms. Does that mean you won't have to wait in line at halftime at a sports event outside a public toilet? If only. Let's check out this new bill. Yeah, so the Fair Access to Bathrooms Bill been introduced by New Zealand First to Parliament, private members bill. So it's not a government bill, and it's got two main provisions. Pretty simple. For each provision, basically it's very clear. Firstly, the building code requirement for all new non-residential, so public buildings, have to have single-sex toilet for males, females, and a unisex toilet. Okay, pretty simple. And there's a maximum $2,000 fine for using a toilet not of your designated biological sex. So here's the signage that you would see. If you know what your biological sex is, excellent. If you don't, or you think you're something else and you've got 112 to choose from and it's growing by the day, then use the other one. I mean, it is pretty simple to understand, isn't it? If you think you're a woman or identify as a woman, but you're a dude and you go in the women's toilet, you'll be fined. So new toilets, new public toilets will have male, female, unisex. Now, Winston actually talked about this last year during the election campaign, and of course the media and the now Prime Minister weren't having a bar of it.
Winston Peters causing quite a stink today over toilets.
I make it very clear, somebody who's got a male appendage should not be in a woman's bathroom or a girl's bathroom.
New Zealand First reigniting the controversial debate on women's spaces.
I'm telling you, you're on a different planet if you want to have a conversation about bathrooms and make that an election issue.
We're the only ones grounded in this campaign, can't you see?
It's not something that's being raised with me at the moment. I don't think it's front of mind for most New Zealanders.
A lot of people do want to enter the debate. A lot of people are saying, thank heavens, someone is making a stand for women.
New Zealand First is proposing a law ensuring any new public bathroom has clearly demarcated unisex and single-sex facilities, and that current toilets aren't used by anyone of the opposite sex.
Women and young girls should be safe and feel safe when they go to a public bathroom. In some parts of the country, you've got men going in there and using the same bathroom, and a lot of people are seriously concerned, and rightfully so.
Research shows trans and non-binary people are 3 times more likely to experience sexual violence than women in the general population, leading to claims New Zealand First is fear-mongering.
It's cheap and nasty, and it's at the expense of trans people.
This is politics that does not belong in this century, and perhaps neither does this politician.
Crystal Tamiana says there are barriers for trans women no matter where they go.
I was told by a man that I was in the wrong toilet and that I should be in the women's toilet.
She's hoping for a considered solution.
I would like to still be in a biological woman's dressing unit, but I would appreciate it if there be like space allocated for women like myself.
New Zealand First would also withhold public funding from sporting bodies which don't have exclusive female categories.
Now, you want to defend cheats, go right ahead, but my party does not.
His party hoping its policy will prove popular with some. Mikey Sherman, One News.
Well, there we go. So last week on Friday, the bill was announced by New Zealand First as promised. And they said, today New Zealand First will introduce a members' bill that will protect women's spaces. The Fair Access to Bathrooms Bill will require, primarily in the interest and safety of women and girls, that all new, non-domestic, publicly accessible buildings provide separate, clearly demarcated unisex and single-sex bathrooms. The bill is about finding a balance between fair and inclusion and fairness for all. Then talks about the UK and similar developments and about defending the right to privacy, personal safety and freedom. And then it says a much needed common sense solution to an issue that has been often overshadowed by ideology. It will stop the growing trend of mixed sex toilet spaces which impact the privacy and dignity of everyone utilising these facilities. And it also says further down, in addition, the bill will introduce a fine under the Summary Offences Act for anyone who uses a single-sex toilet and is not of the sex for which that toilet has been designated. New Zealand First has listened to New Zealanders. We know there is a silent majority anticipating such legislation. This bill will ensure that every individual has fair access to safe public bathroom facilities. Every New Zealander is entitled to feel safe and have privacy in these public spaces. So let's check out the media coverage. And interestingly, there were only 4 written reports that we could find and nothing on the 6 p.m. news bulletins. So One News and News Hub had a written report on their website, and the Post in Wellington, which is part of Stuff, and then later on New Zealand Herald did. Now, you know what the law says and the effect, okay? 3 toilets, male, female, unisex. And if you go in either the male or the female and you're not male or female, then you are fined. But here is the heading for the Post, which is the Old Dominion Post. This heading was also carried in the Press, which is a partner paper. Here it is. Winston Peters wants to ban unisex toilets. Wow. That is an utter lie. It's completely wrong. And it goes on in the article to say Winston Peters wants to pass law to protect women's spaces by banning unisex bathrooms and making it a crime to use a bathroom not designated for a person's gender. Promise of the bill immediately drew criticism from Labour leader Chris Hipkins, who said it was just absolutely ridiculous. The country has bigger issues to worry about than Winston Peters' homophobia or transphobia. Safety of women in women's spaces is homophobia or transphobia, according to the leader who can't even define what a woman even is.
To be honest, Sean, that question's come slightly out of left field for me. Biology, sex, gender. People define themselves. People define their own genders.
That was painful. In fact, just as an aside, Winston had a very funny jab at Chris Hipkins last week. Hipkins was asking about the gender pay gap, and Winston came back with this delightful question to the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what's the current national gender pay gap?
Sorry?
What is the current national gender pay gap?
Yeah, just under 9%.
Very good. Does he think it's acceptable? Does he think it's acceptable that women...
Just hang on.
Does he think it's acceptable that women working in New Zealand earn just under 9% less than men for the same work? If not, what's his government going to do about it?
No, we actually want to see pay parity in this country. We're going to work very hard to make sure that happens.
Supplementary question, why does he think we have a gender pay gap in New Zealand?
Oh, there's a long-standing number of reasons that, that has caused that pay gap. That's not acceptable. We're going to keep working hard on it.
What are some of those reasons?
Well, there's a number of reasons for it, but I'm just telling you it's an unacceptable gap. We're going to work hard on it.
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question, Ronald Winston Peters.
Seeing as this matter is related to gender, it's very important for the government. Has he received information as to what a woman is?
Look,
Classic Winston. So let's have a look at the One News coverage. And immediately they make a judgment on it. It's not fair or balanced, or it's a win-win or a give and a take. No, it's not. They say New Zealand First tries to introduce controversial bathroom bill. Ah, yes, controversial. Why? Because One News doesn't like it. So let's see if they tell the truth about it. And they say the bill would require all new non-domestic publicly accessible buildings provide separate, clearly demarcated unisex and single-sex bathrooms. If passed, it would introduce a fine for anyone who uses a single-sex toilet and is not of the sex for which that toilet has been designated, end quote. So that's it. They don't explain why it's been introduced. It's immediately into, gee, we really hope this bill is dead in the water, with their fingers crossed. And they say the vast majority of members' bills may not make it to law or even pass their first reading, the first of 3 votes to progress a bill to select committee. A government can also veto a member's bill if, in their view, the proposal would have more than a minor impact on the government's fiscals should it become law. You know, they're kind of saying it with crossed fingers. And then some quotes, they have some quotes from the media release. Now, then normally the media would, you know, in the good old days, would rush to people supporting the bill and people opposing the bill. Yeah, right. So it's off to Chris Hipkins, who can't even define a woman, and a Green MP who actually I'd never heard of. And actually the Greens have bigger issues to sort, don't they? Like bullying, exploiting, losing their rag. But anyway, Hipkins says, Labor Party leader Chris Hipkins said in almost all places there are a variety of bathroom options available, including unisex bathrooms. Is Winston Peters going to say anyone using a unisex bathroom is going to be fined? I mean, how on earth are they going to police that? How on earth are they going to enforce it? Now, I know you're very smart, and you don't need to be a lawyer to see that either Hipkins hasn't read the bill or he's not very smart, perhaps both. Nowhere in the bill does it say that anyone using a unisex bathroom is going to be fined. In fact, that's the one toilet where anything goes. There's no fines. But of course the media don't pick him up for this fundamental error. And of course there are many toilets currently that are purely male or female toilets, because we, you know, could always figure out biology up until about a couple of days ago. And then it's off to the Greens. And Green Party MP and spokesperson for Rainbow Communities, Kahurangi Carter, told One News the Deputy Prime Minister is undermining the mana of Rainbow people who deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. This bill is a blatant attack on our transgender whānau. Now, once again, the Green MP either hasn't read the bill or isn't that clever. Once again, possibly both. Because as Winston Peters says, this bill will ensure that every individual has fair access to safe public bathroom facilities. Every New Zealander is entitled to feel safe and have privacy in the public spaces, including those who think they can change their sex. Then it was News Hub's coverage, and New Zealand First lodges bill to fine people who use public bathrooms and are not of the designated sex. Well, yeah, that's true. They got that bit right. But then you'll notice it immediately follows with New Zealand First wants to fine people who use public bathrooms and are not of the designated sex. False, because they can still use the intersex one, so they have an option. They then basically cover the same quotes and interview the same people, Hipkins and the Green MP. And you'll notice in all 3 reports that not once do they talk to a women's rights or feminist group who have been raising concerns about having safe spaces for women and why they might support this bill. They don't do balance anymore, the media, do they? Now, on Saturday evening, the New Zealand Herald decided to report it. This is what you call latest news, kind of the next day, late. And they say, ridiculous. Winston Peters announces controversial new gendered bathroom bill. So who said it was ridiculous? Was it Winston saying that men using women's toilets is ridiculous? Is it someone else? The New Zealand Herald quickly wants to get the negative term in, and then controversial, and then gendered bathroom bill. Well, no, it's male, female, and unisex. Biological sexes plus the unsure. New Zealand First wants to fine people who do not use the public bathroom of their designated sex if a new members' bill passes, the Herald article says. Deputy Prime Minister Winston Peters has announced the bill to ensure all non-domestic, blah, 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 clearly signed unisex and single bathrooms. They then mentioned Winston Peters' tweet, which was actually a very good one. Let me show you. It's not difficult, Winston says. Men's toilets for men, women's toilets for women. If you want to use a unisex toilet, you can. P.S. Mr. Hipkins, woman equals adult human female. And then it's off. The Herald goes off to a supporter of the bill. Hang on, check my notes. No, just kidding. No, they wouldn't go off to a supporter of the bill. They went to our friends at Inside Out. You know, the group being government funded to push the radical RSE program in schools. And their spokesperson says the whole idea was ridiculous and an attack on transgender people. So that's where the ridiculous comes from in the heading. Perhaps the newspaper heading could have been Radical Gender Group hates women who don't want dudes in their toilet. But of course, that's not the heading. And the Inside Out representative says something as simple as being able to pee, it's something everybody should be able to do freely. Well, yeah, it's funny, you know, I've never seen women trying to use a urinal. Why is that? And she also said New Zealand First has not thought how this bill would be enforced. It assumes you can tell who a transgender person is by looking at them. Well, let's do a little experiment, shall we? See if you can figure out the transgender woman. Exhibit 1. This is the Rip Curl transgender model. Yeah, it's pretty tough to pick out. In this photo, spot the dude. Yep, I think I can figure out Leah Thomas, who's actually a dude there on the far left. This is the dude that Roxy Tickle that we've previously discussed, who wants to use women's spaces, even though being a biological man. How about this one? Ooh, yeah, tricky one. I think it's the one in the middle, eh? And see if you can figure out this one. Another clue. Yeah, look, I don't think it'll be too difficult for women to figure this one out. The women seem to have an innate knowledge of who's not a woman. And if a woman wants to come into the men's public toilet, go ahead. You'll be sorry. It's not a pleasant place or a pleasant smell. Now, just finally, the Post actually changed their heading. Remember the one that said Winston wants to ban unisex toilets, which was a complete lie? So 24 hours after the fake news headline, they changed it to this. Winston Peters wants new toilet law. Well, what does that even mean? That you have to flush after every use? That you can't leave smells? That you have to wash your hands? Or that women should use a woman's toilet and they don't want men in there? And just to add insult to injury, the Post admitted that they'd changed the heading right down the bottom of the article, but said they'd done it 24 hours before they actually did. They said they did it on Friday, but actually Saturday morning, we alerted the fact that they had the old title, the wrong one. So they lied again. Now, just finally, here's a history lesson for you. The first men's public toilet was built in 1863 on Custom Street in Auckland. It cost £21 to build. Women must have had better self-control in those days. But the first men's and women's toilet in New Zealand was built in 1910 on the corner of Simon Street and Grafton Bridge, ironically in Chloe Shawbrick's Auckland electorate. And here's the plans. Bottom right, you'll see the separate toilet. See the circle there? And the woman on the right and men on the left. How do I know that? Well, because it shows the urinal where the arrow is pointing. You see, in the good old days, we didn't need laws to point out the bleeding obvious biological distinction. Men and women could figure it out. But now we need politicians to try and sort the confusion out. And we have a media trying to misrepresent the whole thing. So it's up to Winston to get a straight flush.